every one of us wants successful life. In fact, many of us depend on our family and friends for advice and guidance. To some extent, we feel the superhuman thinking that success is a given if every rule is followed. But when the known and unknown risks materialize and issues arise that are beyond our ability to manage, we feel let down, defeated, and naturally lost. Some of us resort to fate. We claim that the Lady of Luck has turned away from us. We settle for what we get rather than what we can achieve. Worse yet, if life throws a wrench on our health or leave us crippled, defeat leads to anxiety, fear, frustration, and depression. We give up on dreams. Major Devendra Pal Singh, often known as Major DP Singh, or India's first Blade Runner, is no exception. In the graphic book Grit, narrating his story, I would like to reflect on the positive life lessons I connected with. These are my reflections and not of the major or the authors V.R. Feroz or the graphic artist Sriram Jagannathan. I am by no means even qualified to discuss Major DP Singh's story. His service for the Indian nation and the challenges that he overcame is for everyone to read and reflect. But if one thinks he was showered with richness and luck, then one is grossly mistaken. Separated from his parents at an early age, he failed to clear his Class 11 exams. He could not clear the challenging National Defense Academy exam. He took on the financial responsibility for his family due to his father's illness, failing the Common Defense Service exam despite many years of preparation. He also failed the tough Services Selection Board that assesses candidates for the Indian Armed Forces. But did any of these repeated failures limit Major DP Singh? No, not in the slightest degree. As I always say in my project, agile, and leadership classes, we have not failed if we have learned from failure. Major DP Singh also saw every failure as a Kaizen moment. Yes, a continuous learning opportunity. While still in high school, he even emphasized that one should not be ashamed of failure, but the lack of effort to avoid it or learn from it. I recall the popular saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I understand no plans ever survives the field test, but that's not a prescription to avoid planning. What's interesting further is a strategy that he recommended from his private tuition teacher who asked him to teach what he was trying to learn. I have been teaching several subjects to family and friends, and I continue the training and teaching as a passion to support others. I can tell firsthand, even as an assistant teaching professor now, when you teach, you get better. Somehow, you're filling the blanks between pages, sentences, and words of things that you already knew because not everyone reads and understands at the same level, and you will have to explain them. Pursuing a career in the Indian Armed Forces, Major DP Singh talked about his responsibility to be fit. Very interestingly, he connected the daily rituals of personal hygiene, physical training, combat education, and several hours of lectures with the notion of preserving self discipline even when not supervised. This is an important point that I emphasize as part of the development of emotional intelligence because it begins with self awareness and self management. This self discipline is the foundation of character because character represents what we do when nobody is watching. Needless to say, Major DP Singh demonstrates how leadership traits are emphasized here. Furthermore, Major DP Singh reveals his own discovery of how self doubt is not appropriate, synthesizing from thoughts on how his training in the armed forces led him to understand his strengths more than he himself credited it with. I relate to the principle of how our own attitude becomes the limiting factor of how we react to life events. When things do not go as planned, we should go in an appreciative inquiry. Instead, we fear the consequences and withdraw. When Major DP Singh was struck by a mortar shell, injuring him in the battlefield, requiring surgery that left him disabled, he also was depressed. Fear is normal and frustrations are acceptable. However, we should not let that determine our destiny because whatever one's mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So, why settle us for mediocrity? Major DP Singh discusses his self discovery of understanding the challenges of an amputee and how many people unknown to him have helped him along the way for his own stability. When he stood up for himself, he demonstrated leadership to others because others approached him, thanking him for the value he exemplified. Leaders create leaders. They are not afraid of the bad lemons that life throws at them. Instead, they create a lemonade by seeing the opportunity in the failure. Being a leader requires tenacity. Major DP Singh formed the Challenging Ones group to continuously support people challenging all of us. Major DP Singh stands as an example of when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. I feel that when someone's passion to serve is bigger, then failure does not limit us but propels us to adapt and be adept. After all, isn't that what agility in life all about? I am so fortunate to get a copy of this grit book. I would like to thank Lieutenant Esan for recommending me this book and autographing this book on behalf of Major DP Singh. What a honor it is for me. I would like others to join hands with me in supporting the messages of positivity by reading this book and supporting the challenging ones. In Major DP Singh's words, Man jeete Jagjit. I request that everyone conquer themselves first so that they can conquer the world. Whatever your good social cause may be, let it be much bigger than all the failures combined. Thank you.